Good morning and welcome to Malibu, California, cultural capital of the world. We are back on the Herringbone Harmony Monterey. Now, you might ask yourself, what causes the ilks of the guitar of this kind to be up here in this class of people? Well, you know, I do school board stuff. You know, I'm familiar with Title I, social economically underprivileged, those kind of challenges. And believe you me, that extends into the guitar world. Do you know where there's a good restaurant in Malibu? Yeah, this stuff is about Detroit. Have you ever heard of restaurant? Let me give you a little link up there right about now. Don't listen to it until the end, but yeah, we talked in the last episode about this Herringbone Harmony, the Mangled Monterey, about the stuff we did on the inside, and the guitar was coming apart, and so we beefed it up and did some stuff. Now, before we put it back together, which needs to be pretty soon, because when you take a guitar apart, it's kind of like even an expensive, like even a Malibu birthday party balloon, they start to deflate and come apart and that kind of stuff after a while. But we wanted to stabilize the finish, and we did some tricks that you're going to see on this 1956 Silvertone Aristocrat that has the finish coming off of it. We're going to do some work on that one. But while this thing is apart, we are going to refret the neck. Why? Well, for no particular reason other than it's off, the neck is off, and it's a lot easier to beat frets on with this off than it is on, where you're messing with this part right here and smacking frets, because there's no way to put a good support underneath this. We are actually going to put an Allen bolt and a T-nut to put the neck on and keep it on. We're going to shim it just a little bit and give it a little bit of downward angle, get the action up a little bit. I'm going to show you a little bit of a finishing trick learned from Fred. Oh, by the way, Granny's iron, I think this is Granny's iron sister, so this would be Great Aunt Iron. We're going to incorporate this iron into this fret removal, and I'll show you that there. But anyway, we are going to put a finish on this that is just ridiculous. There's no reason to do it other than to be able to say, yeah, I did that level of ridiculousness, over the top, like Malibu style junk. Okay, and what else? Oh, we have the pilot holes drilled right here. Can you see me? Can you see me? Oh, look at that finish. Wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to be junky. Yeah, I'm going to show you how I did this, but it's not on the sides or the back yet. But once it's done, D-U-N, it's going to look like that. Ooh, ah. Who would want something this junky lacquered like this? Maybe you would, if the price is right. Okay, guys, I have to say, Herringbone Harmony, because I have so many videos going on at one time that keep your eyes off of this. The action is right here. Oh yeah, you're looking at my my logo. That's right. So I have to say Herringbone Harmony, because I got so many videos that I have to sort them off this way. So let's grab this up and get it out the way, because we're going to do something else, because we have hobo hot plate, and now we need great auntie iron. It's not Granny's iron, it's Granny's sister's iron. We covered that. I have to have duplicitous scrap apparatus, and if you're going to run 2 shops, you got to have something like this. The cost is outrageous. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do. The frets are fine. They're grooved a little bit, and coming out of the factory, these low frets on a flat fingerboard made it to where there wasn't a lot of work to do, and a new guitar player doesn't care and doesn't even know if the action is that high, right? So while we're here, we are going to pull the frets off and refret this, because when this stuff is on a guitar, chances are somebody's going to want to refret it later, and when they do, they're going to be beating on stuff and pulling on stuff, and then the neck works loose. So while we're putting the neck back on, before we put it back on, we've got a good surface to work on here, and we can do things like this or like this, and then when it comes down to the end where it's generally unsupported, we can put something like this on here, and we can make sure that all the work gets done by moving things around. Guys, don't take something this old and do a setup with a neck rest on, because whenever you do a setup with the neck rest, it gives you a teeter-totter pivot point. Do you see that? Don't be surprised if everything is messed up when the neck stand goes away and it's back on the guitar. So you're just kind of supporting where the work is right now. If you get down here and again it's trying to teeter-totter, this is some yoga thing that they sell at the beginning of the year, and everybody buys one and then they show up at yard sales, so you can just use that. Anyway, support what's being beat on. Now, in that time that I wasted, I can take Granny's iron. We want to make sure that the nut is off, and of course you're going to put all the stuff for the guitar inside the canvas tote, right, so you don't lose the stuff. Anyway, the nut is off, and we are going to set the iron right there on those frets, and we are going to heat those up just a little bit before we start pulling frets. Typically these are maybe glued in, maybe not, but the heat is going to swell things up a little bit. It'll make it easier to pull. Okay guys, a couple tools I want to show you, very important, just like your fretting nippers, your fret wire cutters. This is a fret pulling pliers, and you'll notice that there is a surface right here that's radiused. You see that? And so these also come to a point like a razor blade kind of along that edge. So what this is meant to do is you grab a hold of the fret, okay, maybe I have a piece of fret wire here, maybe. So what this looks like is if I get this underneath here on the edge and I squeeze it, what happens is that concave surface there will actually push against the wood and elevate the fret out of the slot. You need these. You don't wiggle them back and forth, you just walk down and do this. Now when you get to the end and you still don't have the fret out, this is a handy tool. Comes in 2 sizes. It's in the English system, so there's 10 thousandths and 20 thousandths. Anyway, when you get that fret wire up off the fingerboard a little bit, this just fits in here like so. It straddles that, and then you again take your fret pulling pliers and it will give you just a tad more, and it will help you pop them. Okay, so we're going to put the iron back on the hot plate, start smelling things, turn it down a little bit, and then we're just going to turn this wherever it's easiest for us to work on. That's why it's nice to have a bench with the right height. Anyway, we're going to get on the edge here, And we're going to be very careful, and it'll pop those up and pry it. Again, that radiused edge allows us to pull up, and there you go. Remember, these are hot. You can have your microphone stand, ashtray with magnet on the live from the entertainment capital world, Las Vegas, Nevada, and we just drop those right in there. Now, before we move on, we are not going to want to just let this be like this. We are going to take a light piece of sandpaper and go over this and get rid of those, and then there's going to be some stuff we'll do it when the frets are all off and we're dealing with the fret slots. I want to show you something cool. Tammy had this at her workstation. It's a piece of an old fretboard where the fret was pulled out, and there's this piece of wood, got a hole in it for your finger and thumb, and a piece of sandpaper there, and you just can go like this. See that? And it takes it right off. So we'll take Tammy's tool and we'll just do that. See that? Now, I want you to notice that there's some gunk on here that came off and we did that. And that's okay. We're going to level this out before we put the frets back in. Handy tool. So every once in a while, as rarely as even on the second fret, you're going to run across where the things are so low that the fret pliers are not going to try to grab them. So there's a couple ways to address this. You can either take a razor blade, a utility blade, and come underneath it like so, just a little bit, and get the gunk that's out of there. That may help you. Believe it or not, that is a problem. And if that, once you do that, if you still can't get the fret pulling pliers to grab onto everything, you can take an old chisel that you don't care about much, 1/4 inch, tape it off so it's not underneath, and then you just come along like this and get that edge underneath it where you've taken the razor blade and opened the gunk up, and you're not trying to pop it, you're just trying to get yourself a little bit of room there. And once you see it wiggling, then of course you take your fret pliers and walk down, and you will be surprised to know that it will come off. Again, move this around where you can get to it. Placement is always the key to maximum satisfaction. Now, in the event that you have a piece that wants to chunk out of your fingerboard, put that right there and get your medium Zap-A-Gap CA glue. Be careful where this stuff goes, and you're going to put a single drop right there. Do not leave this stuff sit around where it will fall over. I don't care how long it takes you to do this. Be careful of it by Granny's iron, because you don't want to light up the world. Anyway, we're just going to pop that in there like so and work it down. And remember, this stuff sets up in 1 minute. So don't move it for 1 minute once it's in place. Always have a little tape. Once you get that in there, just put that like so lightly, leave one side up, and keep those chunks to a minimum. Okay guys, pay attention to this one. On these boards that are subject to chipping out, you want to take a razor blade, a utility blade, and you want to walk down the edge of the fret. Be careful, but you just walk down the edge of each fret like this. This will accomplish two things for you. it will get rid of the gunk. You should see the stuff that's coming up off of here. This guitar was 60 years old or so by the time 2000 rolled around, so it's getting on 80 years old. But that gunk right there is built up, and you need to get in there. Plus, when it comes time to popping the frets out, if you don't score them like this, chances are there's going to be more chip out when you pull it. So just, can you see that? You're just going along and hold it at a little bit of an angle and get it underneath that edge and just walk down like so. Just do one side all the way down, and then once you get there, you can just flip it over and do the same thing. Okay, let's do one start to finish. We'll take the iron off. We'll take the razor blade. We'll remember that the frets are hot. We'll take the edge along to get the gunk out and open us up a spot to put our fretting tool in. And if something were to happen where that's not going to work out real well for us, we're going to take our old trashed out chisel and we're going to come in at this angle, and we are just going to work that like so until it pops up just a little bit on both ends, like so. Then we just take our fret pliers, get it underneath there, and just squeeze it, walk it down and be patient. And there it is. Remember, it might be hot. Put it over there. Take our little Tammy tool, and look, we don't have any breakout. Alright, we are down to the last one. I think we got about 10 minutes into this after we got our prep done. You want to be careful of these bottom ones because there is not any support underneath them. The fingerboard is not supported by the neck there. There's just a tapered piece here, and it curves off at the end. So you get to yanking and cranking on this part right here, it's tear on the dotted line is what happens. Anyway, now I'm just going to take a piece of radiused block with a piece of adhesive sandpaper and just sand this all down, set it aside for a little bit, let some glue dry up where I've had to make a couple repairs. Now you're going to want to remember that up here where everybody was doing the cowboy chords and they had their fingernails and stuff, everything is not going to be perfect, but we're looking at getting the fingerboard nice and smooth and making sure there's not high spots, because the frets, when we pound those back in, they'll want a nice place to seat. Now while we're doing this, we're going to get into a little fretting bag of tricks, and there's a couple of tools I want to show you. You've seen them before, but there's this, it's like a razor, and this gadget right here, you got to keep these nuts tight with a Phillips, but you're just basically going to go along, and you're not looking to expand anything, you're just going to get the gunk out. So you just pull it like this. You want to remember now that we glued a piece right there, so we're going to take that saw and pull it just like so and get that out of the way before we just hook it and do that. See that? So I'm just taking these one by one and doing a drawdown. Now remember, if you like your thumb much, keep it out of the way. But the most important thing, forget your thumb. Bleed on your own time. Now imagine if you were doing this with the neck still on the guitar. I'm not telling you to pull the neck off of every guitar just because you need to do fret work, but you can see how much easier this is. Yeah, this little gadget is awesome for opening up fret channels. Remember, when you start beating new frets in, if something is not right, the fret channel suffers. I'm glad we went along with these tools. I want to show you another cool tool. This has a file on it. It only has a file on this side. It has another one here. On the back side, it's put in at an angle. That angle mysteriously matches the angle you'd want on your frets after they're in. But this side has, again, no teeth here or here, but teeth on both sides. This is flat, so you set it against, you just put it on your fingerboard like that, slight pressure, and then anything that's picked up along the side just comes off like so. Flip it over, same thing. So anything that's popped up and out of the slots will be gone. Look at that finish. Isn't that incredible? We should protect that. All right, on to the finish. Look at this beautifully terrible finish. You know, we had a bunch of cracks and stuff going on. We fixed all that, but people are saying, why don't you just glue that thing back together? Well, because sometimes when you put a new chick flick teal dress on something that's 80 years old, and you put these cleats on, sometimes things fight back, and if you look real close here, that cleat is cracked and that one is cracked. Probably has a lot to do with this big brace we put in and all that, but you give the stuff some time to settle into itself. So I got the hide glue heating back up, and we are going to take our wore out chisel that we have from the last one, and we're just going to pop this off here. Now we may have to heat this. I don't know how I would do that. Oh, what do you know, I just happen to have the iron right here, and everything hide glue responds to heat. I may burn this down. I don't know that there's anything left to burn in Malibu. What a terrible joke. But yeah, Malibu Canyon, between Mulholland Road and the North City limit on Las Virgenes, Malibu Canyon, all those oaks down in that valley, everything is burned up, and I don't think that was the first time. You see what a little bit of heat did there? Padna? Ooh, look at that. Okay. Now, of course, I have my razor blade here, and I'm going to make sure that we scrape this. So, the next cleat, which when I'm cutting cleats, I don't just cut one. I have this full of them, so I can just come in, and when that hide glue heats up, I can put that on after I put my, that's right, clamp on right here. Tighten that up. This is an edge clamp. You've seen it before. And given the work we do, you'll see it again. We just put that on there like that. And then we, look at it pulling right back together. Of course it is. Yes, the hide glue is hot. So is the water. So are my fingernails that I used to have. But we're going to keep this in the water because the hide glue is going to get thick fast if I don't keep it heated. So take this brush here. This is good European hide glue. And this light crack up here, we are just going to fill that with hide glue and right above, because this big split right here, this brace that we put in, it's stuck in place. So again, we're going to put this here. I keep that brush clean. We've already got our edge clamp in place, you see that. Watch this area right here, clamped, and then I just tighten this. Now, you want to remember when you're doing this, if you don't have this end stabilized, when you bring this together, because of the radius, that crack is going to run. So there we go. That's good. I've got my cleat. The grain is running this way, so I'm going to want to turn it across that. I want to stay away from the edge because the kerfing, you can tell where the kerfing glues on. So we're going to keep that right up there. And I need to quit talking so much and get on gluing this. We want to put a bunch on there while it's hot. Put a little bit on the back. Notice I have the edges worked down. And I can put that there like that. Now I'm going to get a clamp that comes in from this way and clears this and clamp that down. There we go. Alright guys, we've pounded in the frets. Remember, we're using new frets on an older fingerboard that had much smaller frets. And so it was a little bit of struggle. You just have to be patient. And we used some glue to help hold the frets down. And finally, we put some pieces of leather, these are handy, over the frets, and then use these sanding coals and an extra block of wood. This one came off the Mando base repair. Anyway, to just kind of hold this in place, we're going to leave this sit for a day or two. And then we got some other stuff to show you. Now, I hinted around at the beginning of the episode that we're going to talk about finish. And you thought, what are you talking about? This thing is about as nasty as you can get. Well, guys, when I used that sanding sealer, you should have known that I was going to try to do something here and keeping as much of this as intact. So I made a mistake. I showed this to Fred. It disappeared to the bench. It left all dull, and then it came back, and look at this. Mr. Clean is jealous of this. Now the trick to this is, you've got something in here, and another something in here, and then there's something over it, and then some secret potion, and then you wad it up like this, and you turn it, and you just rub this incessantly, and after a while, it turns into this glass surface. So, let's figure out how to make one of these. There are 3 components to a lac finishing pad. First off is cotton. The bigger the cotton balls, the better. Medical supply is a good place for this. You can also get this at a place like Ulta or some cosmetic place. Just don't even. Anyway, that goes here. This is the toe of a wool sock. It has to be a wool sock. Don't have blends, don't have rayon or whatever that other stuff is you're wearing. It's just a wool sock. And then finally, you need some fine linen. That means cotton. It doesn't mean rayon, it doesn't need some blend. Now I cut this out of a really high thread count sheet, and you'll notice that the edges are burnt because if there's any fragments coming off of this, it's going to ruin your finish. You could also fold this over, use fabric glue, or use some of that tape that they use to seam stuff when they're trying to get your dress. Notice I said your dress ready at the last minute when you're a bridesmaid, or God knows what you're doing with a bridal dress on. Anyway, this goes in here, this goes in here, and then this goes on the linen. Now when this is new, you're going to wad this up and hit it and make it flat, and then you are going to take some Everclear. You know what Everclear is? Well, my Grandpa Bub, who had a 2-story outhouse in front of his bar, I think was making it in the woods behind Shaw Dam Tavern. But when everything is new, the only time that you put anything on the outside of the pad is when you put Everclear to charge it for the first time. Everclear, you see how that's soaking in? Everclear will keep everything that is in the lac polish that you're going to use from hardening up as long as it's in a bottle like this. So you just basically take this and do this, wind it up, and then you put it in there when it's not in use. Again, make sure those edges are stabilized, because if they're not, you will end up with all kinds of lint in your finish, and you won't like that. Now, the best Gibsons and arch tops and things like that are always finished that way. Now, I want to show you this beanbag comes in handy, because this is an arched surface, okay? And I can put this like so. There's some trade secrets being given away. Now the next step in the process is no guys, easy, not to worry. Not to worry. We are going to take a piece of white ball 80, and we're going to make sure that there aren't any fingerprints or anything else. So we're going to put some slider fluid, because you can't get anything else over here. Now I want you to watch it vaporize off. Watch your lighter fluid to make sure it doesn't have some kind of scent in it or some kind of something or other that will leave some residue, but you can see that that's getting dull right away, and so it's vaporizing off. We're using things that are going to vaporize off here. Now, let's say that, like in that area right there, you see that? There might be a little tiny tree right there. That still fall for that, right? Okay, so I'm going to take a different rag. Now I'm going to take some of the stuff that I told you separates. You see that? And then I'm just going to put a little bit. You got to keep agitating this stuff. Just like when you're the bad kid in class. You got to keep agitating things for it to have its effect. And then you're just going to take that, whatever it is that you think is needing to be cleaned, and you just wipe this on here. And you'll notice that even though it has water and something else in it, it starts to dry. And you will hear, at some point, it will start to squeak. And squeaky clean came from being clean. When you can hear things squeaking, that means they're clean. Okay? So, now, once we've done that, we're going to quick one more time with the naphtha substitute. If you can get naphtha in your state, go ahead. It's going to be a lot cheaper. But there we go. So, now, the first thing I'm going to want to do with this is I'm going to use lac pad polish. Lac pad polish, find that on your own. I'm not going to give you recommendations, because if you do this wrong and you're doing work for hire, you're going to end up ruining somebody's guitar. And you're going to be like, yeah, but Ken said. It's like, are you goofy enough to watch that dude? Anyway, this is lac polish. It's not Frank's hot sauce, even though it looks like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a liberal amount here. Shout out to my friends in Liberal, Kansas. I don't know what happened to that flashing cafe sign. Anyway, watch this. I'm going to go up and down, and I'm not going to go around and around, because this is not Rat, the song Round and Around. But I'm going to do that once. Then I'm going to leave it dry. This has spirits in it, and so it's going to vaporize off. Now, ideally, I would let this sit for several hours, but since you don't have several hours, we're going to get our lac pad back out. I want you to pay close attention here. Do not put anything on this side. We're all going to go from the inside, and we are going to put some, not a ton, but some of this lac pad polish in there, and it's going to soak into the cotton. Make sure you put that away. Make sure you know where your lid is. Don't let anything spill. Keep that bottle handy. Now, you're going to wind this up. You don't want any dirt on there. You don't want any folds. You don't want any creases. And you're going to do this and twist it. And then when I tap it, you're going to see my glove and this turn wet. You don't want that to be soaking wet. Then you just do this. Do not come on in the middle. Do not come off in the middle, because you'll leave a spot wherever you are. But you're just going to hold this, and you're going to come on from the side, and you are going to keep wiping and wiping and wiping around and around and figure eights until you get over the whole thing. The rag is going to try to pull back on you because it's sticky. You are actually putting on shellac. Here we go. Don't push so hard that you re-crack things, but you will see, if you do this, you will feel that this starts grabbing to itself. You don't want to let that happen. Do not stop. Keep going in circles. Go over the whole thing in these circles, these concentric circles, until you get all the way around. Keep going. Keep the pressure down. You're going to be able to tell if there's a crease in your applicator because you'll be able to hear it clicking. So again, if I want to check that, I don't just pull straight up, I come off to the side. See that? And I just keep doing this. There are people, you see that, watch. You see it got wet. You wouldn't think that that would be. There are people who tell you, well, put some oil on here, put some olive oil on here, because it will make it work better. It will glide better. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Okay? Don't do that. Why do you want olive oil? Olive oil will turn rancid. You don't want something like that in your finish. You just be patient. And just keep going around and around, like so. Now, I like doing this on guitars that are together. It's far easier. Now I'm not even going to bother to do the sides while this is like this. You got to keep going. Don't stop while you're on here. Just keep pushing down and squeezing and then off like that. Okay, it's a bit later and it's not too sticky. I'm going to wind that up again. Watch my glove. You see it's how it's wet? You see that? So that means it's still on there. You can tell when these things are running out because they will stop trying to stick to themselves, so you can put a little bit more polish in there. But again, it's a lot better to do this when the guitar is together, so you're not worrying about the cracks that you fixed popping open again. But for the sake of showing you all how this is done, I'm just going to keep doing this several hours apart, numerous times, until, remember, come off of it. Don't just stop somewhere, right back in the bottle, seal it up, and believe you me, after a while, that will look like this. Remember, anything that's missing is going to look like it is. It's just going to be really shiny. There's still bad spots here and there, and the side is going to be ridiculous, but there we go. Alright guys, this might seem crazy to you, but think about it. If you've got finish coming off of a guitar, especially if it's some cheap factory sprayed on something from 50, 70, 80 years ago, do you want it to stop flaking off, or do you just want to keep letting it go? The finish is on there for a certain amount of customer appeal, consumer appeal, but it's really on there to protect the wood. So if nothing else, a little bit of rubbing around in circles. You'll go around in circles. Yeah, Billy Preston, inventor of the French polish. By the way, his catalog is really deeper than you know about that song. So find out who Billy Preston is. Anyway, I'm going to keep going on this. It's already looking way better. I have the sides to do. I have Fred to thank for starting me up on this, as well as a lot of other things. I've been doing live video lately, so I guess it matters what I say. But we're going to move along in the next episode into doing the detail fret work on here. And since I have the back off of this thing, I'm going to be able to make some decisions about what I want to do about pitching the neck angle forward, because we've done a lot of structural work. That's not too bad, but I do want that floating bridge to get up here where I don't have to mess with it again. So this thing is destined to have a pickup. It's going to have electronics. Again, there's detailed work to do on the frets, and this one will go into inventory, which means it's going to be for sale. So that said, Happy New Year. It's New Year's Day. Have a great New Year. And guys that know what's happened to me lately, thank you so very much for everything, and that means everything you have done just to smile on the street, and the word that it's going to be okay has gotten me through a lot of stuff.